Hello everyone, this is Maureen and welcome back to my crochet story where I share with you two things that I love, teaching and crochet. Today's basic stitch series is all about the moss stitch. Now the moss stitch is comprised of just two stitches, a chain stitch and the single crochet. This particular swatch that I've made up for you today is made in a Red Heart Super Saver striped yarn. Now folks, I've lost the yarn band, so I have no idea what this colorway is. But suffice it to say, this is a medium 4-weight, and I'm sure it came with at least, say, 343 yards on the skein. I'm just not real certain. But I do know that it is a popular color, and Red Heart still has it out there for wherever you might be able to find it. You can find it most definitely in any Walmart that still has their crafting section still in the store. I know some of them have stopped or have gotten rid of them, such as the one that's closest to me right now. So let's talk about this little swatch. Now, as I said, excuse me, didn't mean to cough. As I said, the moss stitch is made up of single crochets, a chain one, single crochet, chain one, and so on. I will show you exactly how we put this together to make this beautiful textile. Now, the thing that you'll notice is that this looks the same on both sides because you're going to be working back and forth in rows, and so therefore it's very, very hard to distinguish between a front side and a back side unless you mark it and designate which side you want it to be. Now the moss stitch can be worked in the round, such as if you wanted to make it in a hat, which we will look at in our Moving On Up series in a few weeks. But for right now, we are just going to take this very simple stitch and we're going to work it up so that we can create a small project with it. So if you're ready, you need to grab some 4-weight yarn, acrylic, and your crochet hook. Now I will be working with the recommended I hook or the 5.5 hook. I will be using a Susan Bates crochet hook. If you are venturing out into, say, like a clover, maybe you're trying a boil, or the Yarnology hooks, I think, have some varying sizes. I haven't checked on those, and I think you can find those at Hobby Lobby. But I don't venture really, folks, that much into looking at other hooks because the Susan Bates series is just what I've used all my life. So it's what I'm most comfortable with, and that's what I go to. But as long as you have a hook that you're comfortable with, the I or the J, we're just practicing the stitch right now, you should be fine with your 4-weight yarn. All right, so let's look to see what color I've chosen for you today. I have chosen this very pretty bright orange, and it is from Mainstay's 100% acrylic yarn. And yes, its color is orange. That's exactly what it says on the label. Now, I noticed that Mainstay is starting to, and they may have all along, I just didn't pay that much attention to it, is starting to include a pattern on the inside of their label. I don't know what the pattern is for this one because I obviously want to keep the yarn band on there so I'll know whose yarn it is. But when this skein was full, it had 397 yards or 363 meters. And it's a nice size 7-ounce skein. It is a medium 4-weight, and for this particular 4-weight, it is recommended that you use a 5.5. But a lot of 4-weight acrylics will tell you that the J is just as fine. Even if you want to go down to an H, that'd be okay. I may have said this in videos in the past, but I do want to say I really love Walmart's Mainstay. It is softer than Red Heart's right off the bat. I mean, I'm going to tell you, you don't even have to wash it once like you do with the Red Hearts. It's softer. It feels good on the hand and the fingers when you're working with it. I just really, really love it. So when I can find the colors that I want in the mainstay, I grab them up, as many as I can afford at the time that I'm doing it. So with that said, let's look at what we're going to make today. So first thing is, we're going to attach our yarn to our hook. Now, if you're still in the beginning stages and you're comfortable with just putting your hook down and tying it on, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. We just want to get the yarn attached to the hook. But I'm going to loop my yarn in a cross design on the back of my first two fingers here, so that whenever I wrap it around in the front, I have parallel lines. Then I'm going to take my hook, go under the first loop, grab the second one, pull it through, twist and tighten up. Then I'm just going to tighten it so that it's on securely on my hook. Now remember, this is your tail. You're not going to do anything with it until the very end whenever you get ready to clean up your project. Excuse me again. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you have a way to gauge your tension. I like to wrap mine around my pinky, over the top of my middle finger, and then around my first finger, and that's how I control my tension. So with the moss stitch, you will need to chain an even number. So what I want us to chain for today is I want you to chain 18 chains. So remember, a chain is just simply rolling, grabbing your hook, your yarn on your hook and pulling it through. Pull through, pull through, pull through. I'm going to do this a few more times and I'm going to stop, because I want to remind you that we want our chains to all be consistent. See how my loops are all just about perfect as far as in relationship to one another? That's what you want, because your chain will determine what your first row and your next couple of rows are going to look like, which then determines what your whole project is going to look like. So we always want to make sure that we take enough time to make sure that these chains are of equal size. So let's see, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, that makes 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. As I said, we want an even number of chains. Now, in order to start this first row, we are going to put a single crochet into the 4th chain of the hook. Now remember, we do not count this loop that is on our hook. Here's our first, second, third. We're going to put a single crochet right here in this top loop of this hook. Now remember, a single crochet means we're just going to go into the chain, pull up a loop. We have 2 loops on our hook, pull through, and there's our first single crochet. I mentioned earlier that the moss stitch is made by creating 1 single crochet, 1 chain. So I've created 1 single crochet, 1 chain, and then we're going to skip the next chain. And then in that second chain from our single crochet is where we're going to put the next one. So I'm going to go into the top loop of that chain, grab a loop, 2 loops, yarn over, finish out my single crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next chain and go into the next chain, or the second chain from your single crochet. Go on the top, pull through a loop, pull through the loop. And you're going to repeat that all the way across. Chain 1, skip 1, make a single crochet. 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 Chain 1, skip 1, and here we are at the end making our last single crochet. All right, So now at the end, I started with 18 chains, but remember we skipped 3 of them, so let's see how many we should have left. This counts as our first stitch, even though it's those 3 chains there. So there's 1, excuse me, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let's count that again. I want to make sure because it kind of looped up there on me. I know what it should be. Alright, so here we go. Here's 1 because that's our turning chain there, and we're going to count it because we're going to need to count it later. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the last double crochet makes 16. Now at the end of each row, you're going to chain 2 and you turn your work. Now this chain 2 is just the riser for our next row. It's our lift. Now from here on out, for every row, you're going to chain 2 and then you're going to look for that first chain 1 space, and that's where you're going to put your single crochet. So I'm going to single crochet into the first chain 1 space, chain 1, and go into the next chain 1 space and make a single crochet again. Chain 1, look for my next single crochet, my next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1. Look for that next single crochet, the chain 1 space, make a single crochet, chain 1. Now let's see if I can say it correctly this time. Look for your next chain 1 space, put a single crochet in there, and chain 1. There's my next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1. Next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1. Now here's your single crochet that you made in the very first row after we did our chains. But remember that we skipped 3 chains? Well, these 3 chains are going to count as our last chain 1 space of the row. So what you're going to do is, I always just say go into the chain that's here on the side, excuse me, and do your last single crochet. So let's take a minute and see how many stitches we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now it's going to be important that you take a minute every couple of rows to check to make sure that you have however many stitches, such as in this case we're going to have 16 stitches in each of our rows. I'm going to stop just a minute and take me a drink of water because I'm getting ready to cough again. I am so sorry, but it seems like as soon as I started videoing, I decided to get a tickle in my throat. Alright, going to repeat the same process. Chain 2, turn our work, find that first chain 1 space, and put in our single crochet. Chain 1, skip, if you want to look at it this way, you're going to skip your single crochet and go into that chain 1 space and make a single crochet. But I always just say look for your chain 1 space, single crochet, and chain 1. There's my next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space, next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, next space, single crochet, chain 1, and here we are at the end again. So I'm looking for that chain 2 that gave me the lift for the row prior, and I'm just going to go in here to the side, make my last double crochet, and chain 2. Excuse me, turn my work. And that is what we're going to do for the rest of the practice. Now you're going to find that you're just going to continue chain 2 at the beginning of the row, single crochet, chain 1. Look for your next chain 1 space, single crochet and chain 1. That's all we're going to do for the moss stitch and for this small project that we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. Now you're going to find that over time, by doing this practice, your muscles will develop a memory for this stitch. Now you may be thinking, okay, let me stop just a minute. I've come to the end. I'm going to put my last single crochet here, and I'm going to count and make sure, but it looks like from the way my swatch is looking, I have nice parallel sides here, but let's check to be sure. Here's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. Now remember, these chain 2s don't count as part of your row because they're the lift for the next row. Turning my work. Now talking about the muscle memory again. You're going to think that possibly once you get through with this project that your muscles, your fingers are not going to remember how to do the stitch, but you'd be surprised. And it does not take a lot of work when you're learning a new stitch to build up a muscle memory. It'll come right back to your fingers like nothing. So I'm getting ready to do my last single crochet right here in those chain 2s. Turn my work. I'm going to single crochet again. As I said, this is our repeat pattern for the rest of the swatch. And here we come to the end of the row again, and there's my last single crochet. As I said, you can see here, matching it up with these little parallel lines here, how nice that swatch is looking. So, what I have proposed for you today is that you continue working this swatch until it is, I'm going to make mine 20 inches minus 1, making it 19 inches. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to then take the length of it and I'm going to fold it together and stitch it in such a way where I have a nice, quick, easy ear warmer. Now this is the month of January, and you know, in some parts of the country, such as West Texas, we do get cold out there, but not cold enough to wear a beanie all the time. But ear warmers are really a nice, quick project to whip up for yourself, as a gift for someone. You can make them as wide and as long as you want, depending if you want it for a child's head, for an adult's head. They just make really, really nice accessories. Even boys will wear these because not all boys like to wear beanies. And my grandson has to wear a hat outside all the time, but he's not much of a beanie person. I mean, he has one or two, but he loves to put this over his ears and then put his ball cap on top of it. That way it keeps his ears warm, but it's not, you know, interfering with the ball cap that he likes to wear all the time. So I'm going to continue practicing my moss stitch until mine reaches 19 inches, because that will fit a head that's about 19 and a half, 20 and a half inches. So I will meet you back when you have your swatch as long as you would like for it to be, and I'll show you then how we're going to put it together. So see you back here in just a few minutes. Alrighty, there she is. Mine is 19 inches long. So however long you made yours, if you're ready to put the ends together and see how we're going to make this ear warmer, I'm ready to go. Now notice, look at this beautiful, beautiful fabric here. Look at that texture it made. Hope you're running your hands over it and giving it some love. Notice there's that springiness. And that's the reason why I said if you want to make an ear warmer out of it, you measure the circumference of the head of the person that you're going to make it for, or you could just make an estimate and subtract 1 inch, because this moss stitch will give it some give, and you don't want it falling down off their ears. So let me put my hook back in, and I will show you how we'll turn this little jewel into an ear warmer. Get that pulled back through there. All right, so the first thing we want to do, obviously, is get our yarn back on our hook. Now, when you got through here, let me get this untwisted. We're only going to want, at the end of this row, instead of 2 chains, I'll get over here in a minute. Instead of 2 chains, we're only going to need 1. Turn your work, and let's bring up this other edge here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match it up the best that we can. And I always start from the front side here on this edge, and I'll pick up this very first there we go. I'll pick up the very first chain here on the other edge. Tighten up my yarn here. Okay, so I'm going to go in here just like I was getting ready to make my stitch and match it up with that corner stitch over there on the other side. Pull up a loop, and I'm just going to go ahead and crochet that together. Now I'm not going to do it in every stitch. I just want to do it enough times, like maybe every other one like we did before. I forgot to do my chain 1, didn't I? I'm going to do my moss stitch here just like I was doing a single row. So chain 1, go into my next chain 1 space, chain 1. There's my chain 1 space here, and my chain 1 space over there. Chain 1, chain 1 space, find my chain 1 space over there. Chain 1, here's my chain 1 space, chain 1 space on the other side, chain 1 space here, chain 1 space on the other side, chain 1, matching up chain 1 spaces here, and here's chain 1, and I'm going to end out just like we did before, matching up the corners here. And I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to pull up my yarn just a little bit so that you can see. Now we do have a ridge here, and that's okay because we'll make this be our inside. When we flip it, you can just barely tell where that seam is if you were just looking at the ear warmer this way. All right, but I'm going to turn this back around for just a few minutes, and I am going to now you can leave it this way, but I'm going to I would leave it this way if I was going to give it to a young man, a boy, or you know, a kid that really doesn't want much more than just to go around their forehead and around their ears. But I'm going to make this for a friend of mine. It's a woman. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fussy it up just a little bit. So this is where I had pulled up my string, and I'm going to pull me up a few more strands here. Get my yarn turned around here so I can pull some more out. I don't know, just, you know, 4 or 5 good pieces there, and I'm going to flip that through. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to feed all this yarn back through this loop that I made. So I'm going to pick up my tail here, and I'm just going to pull it through. See, I've already got one chain 1, I made another chain, and now I'm just going to pull all this yarn through here. If I don't knot it up. There we go. And then I'm just going to tighten this down. Okay. And then I'm going to take my long tail here, and I'm going to knot it to that long string that I have, just to kind of pull that in. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to wrap it around this seam. And what I'm going to do by wrapping it around the seam is I'm going to kind of pleat this a little bit, give it a little gather. See, I have that one tucked down, this one tucked down, and I'm just going to give it a tuck there in the middle. That'd probably be good enough. So I'm going to take my two ends, tuck one in, and then tuck that one in the middle. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this yarn that I have, and I'm just going to feed it around and around and around, pulling it tight as I go. Like 4 or 5 wraps on this side. Then I'm going to loop on the other side here. I've got hooked on my quilting mat. So, funny thing happens towards the end of my video. When I was rendering the video, I didn't realize that at some point, well, no, I know exactly where, my phone received a text which sets off the recording. And so I was just going along, and did not get the last of my recording. So since I had already started this swatch like I told you, and I knew that I was going to take the little bit of thread that was left, or yarn that was left, and make a ear warmer exactly like that one, I thought, well, no time like the present to go ahead and get it finished. So that's what I did. And I was able to get it to this point, which is what you just saw before the little what picture. So from this point, I'm going to show you what I did on the original beanie here. Excuse me, the original ear warmer. You can see that what I did was I pulled in where our seam was, and then I just took some additional thread, cut it pretty long, and just wrapped it around and kind of finished off the middle. Now, you could pull this together like I'm going to show you here in just a minute and put a big old button on it if you'd like. Like I said, you could put a flower on it. I've seen some of them where folks have taken a silk flower, just hot glued the end of it and stuck it on there, and it looks really pretty. I've seen some just stitch it together and not do anything here. I like to finish it off just a little bit. So I'm going to do the same thing with this ear warmer, but I'm going to do exactly like I told you, in that once I get this gathered up here on the seam, there's my seam just like from before. Once I get this gathered up, I'm going to take and use a solid color piece of yarn to make this little knot in the middle. Now I wished I had been able to find something that was a little close to this yellow, but everything I had was way too bright, and I just was like, don't like that. And I didn't happen to, I could not reach, I do have it, but I could not reach this darker gray that I have here, but I did have this little ball laying around, so I'm going to go ahead and finish out the center with it. So the first thing we're going to do at this point is we're going to get us quite a bit of yarn here. Now I said quite a bit, I don't need quite that much. I'm going to take maybe about 24 inches or so. That's what that's going to measure out to be. And I'm going to put that over here to the side for just a minute. And I'm going to get just a little bit of this yarn that was left over.
Get over there.
Sorry, Lacey's being a little toot at the moment, so you might hear Wayne in the background trying to correct her. Now I'm going to take this little bit of yarn that I have left, and I'm going to use it to gather in my middle here. So let me get this threaded on my tapestry needle. And I'm going to double thread it to make sure that or double stranded, excuse me. Just like that. Well, I wonder what happened. Oh, it came out. It came out. Okay, here we go again. All right, now it should stay on there. Let me get this pulled up. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from the top side here. No, I'm going to turn it wrong side out. Sorry. I'm going to work in right here along this seam that I made. I'm just going to go in there and grab a couple of stitches. Pull this big old long yarn through, and I'm going to leave enough of a tail here to weave in just a minute. Then I'm going to go right back through that so that I can kind of lock it in there. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave back and forth here. Pick up a piece here. Pick up a piece over here. Now this is not exact science. I'm not worried about the spacing here because I'm just going to use it to gather up this seam. Keep that from twisting on me. And I'm going to come right up here at the very top and catch that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to help me gather this seam together. Okay? That's all I'm going to do. Use it to gather the seam as tightly as I can. All right. And now that I have it gathered, I'm just going to kind of pull it together here like this. And then I'm going to use the rest of my yarn here on the needle, and I'm just going to feed it through this crunched up section here and secure her, get her going good. And I'm going to come back through one more time. Come through there. I want to catch that tag right there. And then I'm just going to come over the top here, make one big loop. And now I'm done. I'm going to cut me some tails again. Put this off to the side. And right quick, I'm going to go ahead and weave these ends in. And since I'm going to be wrapping back over these here in just a moment, I'm just, excuse me, the tails are going to be hidden. off over there in my little scrap bucket that I have. While we're sitting here and you're watching me doing this, any of you that do amigurumis, do you use your little cuttings, your tail ends, yarn that you just can't do anything else with, to stuff along with your fiber fill in the middle of your little critters or dolls or whatever it is you're making? I do, because it does help a little bit with the cutting down on the use of the fiber fill. It's just like everything else that's gone up. Let's see, I have 2 more right here. Yeah, won't take but just a minute. Let's get them gone. You know, I have a really nifty little needle threader that I got for Christmas from someone. I think it's still packed over there in my bag when I had to switch hotels. Sounds like jingle bells in here, doesn't it? Everybody's got their tags on when they get to doing the shaky shake from laying down after a bit. Tags jingle up against each other. Okay, one more tail here to hide. Alright, now I definitely would have done a better job of hiding my tails here if I was not going to go ahead and wrap this. But can you see how, you know, even right there like that, you could still put like a brooch, a piece of grosgrain ribbon, or silk ribbon if you'd like. You could as I said, get a flower and hot glue it there into the middle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this yarn here. Where are the ends? There they are. And I'm going to start by taking my looped end here. And I'm going to pull these others through it. Make my loop, and I want my loop to be here in the back. Okay. And then I'm going to use this yarn to finish out making a pretty wrap around the center here of my ear warmer. Going to loop it around. Try to keep your yarn, especially up here on the top, from twisting. So when it comes around the top here, just try to make sure that it's going to lay pretty. That one's getting twisted, so we're going to move it around. There we go. And you know what? That color of gray is looking pretty nice on there. I think I like that. And then you can wrap it as many times as you like. I think I'm going to probably go about 2 or 3 more. Put a little bit more on this side over here. Yeah. And I think that's good. What do you think? Thinking I'm liking that. That's really pretty. Okay. Now when we get to the back side here, I'm just going to drop one of these loops. I'm going to pick up the other one and let it go ahead and continue on around one more time. so that when I pick up this other one, I can come back. Let's see what I do. All right, I want one to loop one direction, so we're going to let this one loop this direction. Let them cross in the back there. Where are you? Probably be best if I did this from the underside, huh? Get that untwisted. All right, so now I'll just flip it. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to take only one. I'm going to lay the other one across, and I'm just going to take this one here and go around just a couple of times to lock this one here in. And then when I bring it back around, I can go ahead and tie this off. And looking at the front here, might have to move that over just a little bit, but there we go. Okay, now just like before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread these ends in. I'm going to thread my tails in, let's say it that way. And I'm just going to go under here. I'm going to catch a couple of these loops. Going out, maybe catch a couple of more here. Like I've said before, I don't want to go all the way through. Just want to catch some loops so I can hide my ends. And we'll come up with this one here and do the exact same thing. Just want to hide the tails. There's a couple of loops right there. There we go. Come back this way here just a little bit, and we're just about finished. And twist her back around, and there we go. You know, there might have been a reason why that other video did not end, because now I have the opportunity to show you the finished product of the moss stitch in the variegated and in a solid color. So there you go. I'm not an orange person, but you know what, that moss stitch kind of, to me now, kind of makes that pop a little bit, but I know I'm really liking this multicolored one here. I hope you have enjoyed today's tutorial on the moss stitch, and I do hope that you will finish the practice stitches all the way through to the end and make an ear warmer for yourself or to give as a gift to someone. Like I said, I like to always offer you some little project that helps you not only to practice the stitches, but gives you something to show off of what you've learned. So until next week, when we look at a new stitch and a little project to go with it, be the light out there in the darkness for someone today, because you never know, it could be your light that they are meant to see. I love you all. Thanks for stopping by.